In this video, we will learn about requests and validation in Laravel. Before implementing it practically, let's understand requests and their uses in Laravel. In simple words, requests handle HTTP requests for routes, form submitted input data, and JSON data. Let's see uses of requests. 1. Accessing input data. Suppose we have a student registration form with fields such as first name, last name, gender, email ID, student ID, and class name, and after the form is submitted, we receive input keys like first underscore name, last underscore name, email underscore ID, student underscore ID, and class underscore name. We can access this input using requests by performing actions such as retrieve an input value by key, retrieve all input data as an associative array, retrieve only specific keys, retrieve all input except specified keys, determine if the input key exists, checking if the input key is present and not empty, and retrieve a Boolean value from the input. 2. Retrieving query parameters. If we have a URL, we should retrieve query parameters from the URL and retrieve request input data. 3. Retrieving route parameters such as access route parameters directly or another way to retrieve route parameters. 4. Handling uploaded files, such as retrieving an uploaded file, checking if a file was uploaded, and storing the uploaded file in a specific directory. 5. Accessing headers, such as retrieving a specific header and getting all request headers as an object. 6. Request method and URL like get the request method, get, post, etc. Check if the request method matches, retrieve the full URL for the request, get the full URL, including query parameters, and get the path of the request story. 7. Accessing session data, such as get the session store instance, retrieve a value from the session, and store a value in the session. 8. Accessing cookies data, such as retrieve a cookie value and check if a specific cookie exists. 9. Validating request data, such as validating incoming request data based on specified rules or getting the validated data after validation. 10. Accessing the user's locale such as get the current locale of the request. 11. Handle CSRF protection, such as retrieving the CSRF token for form submissions and checking if the request URI matches a pattern. 12. Handle JSON requests, such as determining if the request is a JSON request and retrieving JSON data from the request body. 13. Handling response helpers, such as determining if the request expects a JSON response and check if the request was made via AJAX. Now we start implementing requests and validation on the registration form, ensuring that XAMPP Apache and MySQL servers are running. Then, open the command line prompt to your project's root directory. Start the local server using the artisan command, php artisan serve, copy this URL, paste it into the Chrome browser, and check if your Laravel project is working properly. After that, we need the URL, register, to display the registration form on the web page. So, we must set a route for the registration URL in the routes web.php file. Open the file and write the route as follows. Don't forget to add the register controller at the top of the file using use app /http controllers /register controller. Now that the registration form route is ready, now we create the register controller using the artisan command. Go to the command line prompt and exit from the server command by pressing Ctrl+C. Then run the command php artisan make controller. It will ask for the controller name, so write register controller and press enter. Select the resource type of controller because we need to perform create and store functionalities. Type resource and press enter. Next, it will ask for the model name. Here, we want to use the user model, automatically generated in the app models directory when you create a new project in Laravel. It handles user authentication, authorization, and user-related data management, so we don't need to create a new model for the register controller. Press Enter, and you'll see the register controller created in the app HTTP controllers directory. Open this register controller and add the user model at the top of the register controller using use app /models/user. If you go to phpMyAdmin, you will see the users database table, which is added by default when you create a new Laravel project, and the user model manages this users table. Now, we need to create a view for the registration form using the artisan command. So go to the command line prompt and run the command php artisan make view. After that, it will ask for the view name, so write register and press enter. The view is created in the form of the register blade template in the resources/views directory. Finally, we have created the route, controller, model, and blade template for registration. So to display the registration form, add the register blade template in the register controller using the view helper functions such as return view, register. Then save the file. To see the form, start the local server by using the command php artisan serve and then copy the URL, paste it into the Chrome browser, and run the register URL. You will see a blank page because we have not yet written the HTML code for the registration form. Let's proceed with adding the HTML code in the register blade template. Before writing the front-end code for the registration form, we first need to create a layout, which is usually placed in the resources views layouts directory. If this directory doesn't exist, manually create a layouts directory. After that, create the layout file app.blade.php placed in the resources views layouts directory. After creating the app.blade.php layout, we add header HTML code to it, including the title, metadata, and external CSS. So here you can see that layout provides a common structure for our views and allows us to reuse the same design across different pages. In a single layout file, we can define a consistent look such as headers, footers, and sidebars. You can see here we use the @yield directive to help manage the dynamic content of different pages according to the specific title set on each page. Now, our layout is ready to use in the register blade template. Next, we created an individual view, register, that extends the app layout using the @extends directive. After that, we set the title as registration page using the @section directive. This title is automatically set in the app layout title. So, before writing HTML for the registration form, first define the @section, content, and @end section directives. Now, in between, we start to write HTML content for the registration form, and this content is automatically set in the app layout @yield content directive. So let's write the HTML for the register form. We use Bootstrap for this. We start by adding a container with metricton 5 and then add a justify content center row in which add a column of MD5 and use card. After that, add a header of card as registration with the text center class. Then, start the card body and open and close the form. Now create a column of MB3 for the name input field and add a label and form control for this field. Similarly, add a column of MB3 for the email address input field and add a label and form control for this field. Also, add a column of MB3 for the password input field and add a label and form control for this field. Similarly, add a column of MB3 for the confirm password input field and add a label and form control for this field. After that, add a register submit button. Then, we'll save this code and go to the command line prompt to start the local server using the php artisan serve command. After that, go to the Chrome browser, hit on the registered URL, and then see the registration form displayed, but the Bootstrap CSS is not being applied. So, we need to add the Bootstrap CSS for this. For Bootstrap CSS, we need to install it by command. So go to the command line prompt and press Ctrl+C to exit from the serve command. After that, run the command composer require Laravel UI and wait to install it. It will take a few minutes. So after installing Laravel UI, next run the command php artisan UI bootstrap and wait to install it. It will also take a few minutes. After completing the UI bootstrap command, run the command npm install and press enter and wait to install it. It will also take a few minutes. After completing the npm install command, run the command npm run dev and press enter and wait to install it. It will also take a few minutes. After that, run the command npm run build to build all CSS and JS in our Laravel project. This command takes a few minutes to complete. Wait to install it. After installing Bootstrap UI, a new node_modules directory will appear containing all the necessary CSS and JS files. In the root directory, you will also find a white.co.nfig.js file. Open the white.co.nfig.js file to see that it loads the app.scss and app.js files. The app.scss file is located in the resources/sas folder where fonts, variables, and bootstrap are autoloaded. Next, add the app.scss and app.js files to the app layout using the @white directive. After adding these CSS and JS files, save the changes and go to the command line prompt. Start the local server by running the command php artisan serve. Once the server is running, go to the Chrome browser and refresh the register page. You will then see that the Bootstrap CSS and JS have been applied. The registration form is ready. I want to let you know that Laravel provides built-in user authentication with login and registration forms via the PHP Artisan UI package. However, we want to check how requests and validation work, so I will use the example of a registration form. Let's start by applying validation to the registration form. First, we need to create a route for form submission action. To do this, go to the routes directory, open the web.php file, and add a route for storing user registration information. After creating the route, add this route to the registration form's action attribute. To do this, go to the register blade template and add the route to the form action. After submitting this form, it will hit the register controller's store function. In the store function, we will validate the post input data using the validate function of the request. First, we need to define rules for input data fields. We'll start by creating a $validated rules array where we declare the rules for each field. For the name field, the rule is that it is required, must be a string, and cannot exceed 255 characters. For the email field, the rule is that it is required, must be a string, should be valid, cannot exceed 255 characters, and must be unique for each user. For the password field, the rule is that it is required, must be a string, must be at least 8 characters long, and must match the confirm password field, which must be named password_confirmation. Next, we need to define validation error messages for each rule. We'll create a $validated message array to store messages for name field required attribute as the name field is required, set error messages for name field string attribute as the name field is must be string, Set error messages for name field, max, attribute as, the name cannot exceed 255 characters. Set error messages for email field, required, attribute as, the email field is required. Set error messages for email field, string, attribute as, the email field is must be. String, set error messages for email field, email, attribute as, please provide a valid email address. Set error messages for email field, max, attribute as, the email cannot exceed 255 characters. Set error messages for email field, unique, attribute as, this email address is already registered. Set error messages for password field, required, attribute as, the password field is required. Set error messages for password field, string, attribute as, the password field is must be string. Set error messages for password field, min, attribute as, the password must be at least 8 characters. Similarly, set error messages for the password field, confirmed, attribute as, the password confirmation does not match. Once the validation rules and error messages are set, then pass $validated rules and $validated message array into validate function. After that, we can redirect the page to the register route to display any error messages on the registration form fields. After validating the form, the next step is to display validation error messages by adding them to the card body section of the registration form. To do this, first, we need to check if any validation errors have occurred. If there are errors, we will add an alert div where we will use a for each loop and the all error function to display a list of errors within a ul tag. It's important not to forget to add the CSRF fields, otherwise, it may result in a page expiration error. After saving the registration blade template, go to the command line prompt and start the local server using the PHP artisan server command and then refresh the registration page. We can then check if the validation is working properly by entering a name as test name, a dummy email like abc@gmail.com, a password like 123456, and a confirm password like 12345. If the password and confirm password do not match, an error will be displayed, and if the password length is less than 8 characters, another error will be displayed after form submission. If we submit the form and see the same errors, it means our validation is working correctly. However, if we want to display errors separately for each field, we can comment out the list of error codes and write the code to display errors separately for each field. We have commented out the code that displays validation errors for each field and have written new code to display the validation error for each field separately. For example, when there is an error in the name field, we will display the validation error using the first error function, which displays the first occurrence of the error for the name field. Such as, if we enter a number with more than 255 characters, we will get two errors, one for it must be a string, and the other for not exceeding 255 characters. After submitting the form, the first error for string will be displayed. If we correct the string error but enter a string that exceeds 255 characters, then the error message for exceeding 255 characters will be displayed. Similarly, we will display error messages separately for email and password. After saving this file and refreshing the registration page, if we enter name as a string with more than 255 characters and enter a dummy email such as abc@gmail.com and a password like 123456 and the confirmation password 12345, the first occurrence validation errors for each field will be displayed separately. Now, we want the previously submitted input data to display as it is with validation errors, then we add old data for name and email fields in value. Now we try the same process as we enter name as a string with more than 255 characters and enter a dummy email such as abc@gmail.com and a password like 123456 and the confirmation password 12345. The first occurrence validation errors for each field will be displayed separately with previously added input data. After that, we see validation custom rules such as email address should not be a Gmail email using the make rule artisan command. To create a custom rule using the artisan command, go to the command line prompt and press Ctrl+C to exit from the serve command, then run the command php artisan make rule. It will ask you to enter the rule name. Here, we create a custom rule for email validation such as email address is not Gmail, so write name the rule, not Gmail, and press enter. After running the command, you will see that the not Gmail custom rule is created in the app rules directory. Open the custom rule file and write the validation rule in the validate function with an error message. Save the custom rule file. Then go to the register controller and add use app /rules/custom rule at the top of the code. Then, where the validation for the email is written, add the email validation rules in an array including the custom rule as new not Gmail and save the file. Then, go to the command line prompt and start the local server using the php artisan serve command. After starting the local server, go to the Chrome browser and refresh the registration page and enter a name as test name email. As a dummy email like abc@gmail.com, a password as 123456778 and confirm the password is 123456778 and submit registration form. Upon submission, you will see a custom error message displayed in the email field. Now we try another way to validate the registration form by using custom requests. We will be using custom requests to validate the registration form. To do this, go to the command line prompt and press Ctrl+C to exit from the serve command. After that, to create a request, run the command php artisan make request. It will ask you to enter the request name, so type register request and press enter. This will create a custom register request in the app http requests directory. Next, open the register request file. We will write the registration form rules and error messages in this file. For this, go to the register controller and copy the validation rules array. Paste these rules into the register request rules function. Then, define a public message function which returns the error messages array. Copy the error message array from the register controller and paste it into the register request messages function. We've added a custom rule, so add use app /rules/not Gmail rule and remove it from the register controller. And comment authorize because we are not using authorization for this registration form. Our custom register request is now ready. Add use app /http/requests/register request at the top of the register controller and replace the request in the sort function with register request. Remove $validated rules and $validated message and replace the validate function with the validated function name without parameters. And save all files. Next, go to the command line prompt and start the local server by running the command php artisan serve. After running the serve command, go to the Chrome browser and refresh the registration page. Enter a name as test name, an email as a dummy email like abc@gmail.com, a password as 123456, and confirm the password as 12345. Submit the registration form. Upon submission, you will see an error message displayed using the custom register request. In this tutorial, we learned about requests and validation. In the next tutorial, we will learn about CRUD operations with pagination, migration, seeding, and tinkering. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Thank you.